we are going to look at number sequences and how we can look at rules. So some input, some output, how to write the rules, so kind of continuing what we did yesterday. So we're going to look at number sequences. So, and how we write those. So we're going to follow some steps that help us look at that information and how we go with just rules and how we put that into charts and graphs. So for the first one, we're going to use the rule add 2. So we have to write a sequence of numbers. The word sequence means that they're in order and one comes after the other. It does not mean that they are necessarily right next to each other, like 0, 1, 2. They can be skip counting, so they could be multiples. We always start with 0. Start with 0. So add 2. So this is all we're doing. So I might go 5 long, and that's how I know when to stop. So I have the other rule that says add 8. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with 0 and I'm going to add 8. So now describe the patterns in each one. So this is just very similar to what we did yesterday. So my patterns could be skip counting, or the more mathematical way for me to say that would be or multiplying, or multiples of 2. So this one, you could go ahead and guess what we're going to write. Skip counting or multiples of 8. All right, another piece of information for us to take notes on, this right here would be the first term. This would be the second term, the fourth term, the fourth term. So a term just means a set of numbers, a grouping in the order that they come in. So this would be the first term, the second term, the third term. So any other patterns that we could look at? Well, I could also look at the fourth term. 1, 2, 3, 4. How do I get there? So let's keep this in mind. If the first term is 0, could I think of something that's multiplying to get here? Keep this in your mind. So if I were also to look at how these two compare, so the fourth term compared to the fourth term. Okay, so I not only looked at the patterns going across the own sequences, but I'm looking at how they compare. So do we see anything? I'm adding 6, but this one doesn't really work. So what could I write? So my job here was to compare the sequences. So to get from the fourth term to this fourth term, I am multiplying by, what works? 6 times what? 24. 8 times what gives you 32. 10 times what gives you 40. So compare the sequences. So for corresponding, corresponding means the same thing in different places. So the first term in both places, the first term, the second term in both places, it would be times 4. So look at this one is when I'm adding to or skip counting, but when I compare one to the other, I'm actually multiplying. So here's another question that you're going to find. What's the relationship between the x and the y coordinate? So in order for me to find the relationship, when it asks me about the relationship between X and Y. All it wants me to do is write this information in a chart form. So I have my X's and my Y's. So this one would be my X. This one would be my Y. So these are my X's. These are my Y's. So I could go 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to put those going down the So all I did was I'm going to translate this into a chart or look at X and Y coordinates so I can actually graph them, so I can visually see it in a different way. So going down with Y's, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. All right, so to graph this piece of information, so I'm showing what the X's are compared with the Y's. I'm going to make myself an X and a Y axis. So these are my skip counting. This is my X down here. This is my Y up here. My zeros down here at the origin. So I have to go all the way up to 10. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now these go all the way up to 40s. So what should I be counting by? So I want this up here to be 40. What am I going to do to get there? Halfway through would be 20. I think I'm going to go by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 24, 26, 28. So I'm going to count to go by twos. 32, 34, 36, 38. So let's look at 0, 0. My next point here is 2, 8. 2, and I'm going to go up to 8. My next one is 4, and I'm going to go up to 16. My next one was 6, and I'm going to 2, 4, 6, and I'm going to go up to 24. If I'm going to go 6, 8, and I'm going to go up to 30, 2, 10, I'm going to go all the way up to 40. I'm going to use a straight edge, and I'm going to connect my points. My first point started at 0, my origin. So if I have a set of information that follows rules, my X's follow rules, my Y's follow rules, I notice that I'm going to land in a straight line. So if I compare the two, what's the relationship between the X and the Y's? It is multiplied by 4. So I challenge you to see if there are any other patterns that you can notice going this way or going this way. So if you could come up with some different patterns than we've shared, so I challenge you to bring them to me in class, and I will add some extra points to your math contract.